The night was still. The only sound in Dominic Russo's penthouse was the faint hum of the city below, Manhattan, sleepless and alive. A silver moon cut through the glass walls, spilling light over the leather couch where he lay, eyes closed, breathing steady. He looked asleep, but he wasn't. Dominic Russo, the man who could make Wall Street tremble with a single call, was pretending to sleep. Why? Because something about the new maid didn't add up. Samantha Reyes moved silently through the penthouse, her steps light, almost ghost-like. She thought he was resting after another late-night meeting. She thought she was alone. But Dominic's instincts, sharpened by years in the shadows of the mafia world, told him otherwise. There was tension in her movements, too careful, too precise. She wasn't cleaning, she was searching. Her hands trembled slightly as she opened the drawer near his desk. Inside, hidden beneath stacks of invoices and neatly folded letters, was the small black notebook no one was ever supposed to touch. Dominic's heart slowed, his jaw clenched. She knows about it. He kept his eyes shut, waiting, watching. Samantha froze. For a long moment, she stared at the book, the one tied to his darkest past, the one that could burn his empire down. Her breath hitched as if she recognized it. Then she whispered under her breath, so softly he almost thought he imagined it. "You still keep it, after all these years." Dominic's pulse thundered. What did she just say? He wanted to rise, demand answers, but something in her voice, the quiet ache, the broken familiarity, made him stay still. Who was this woman really? She placed the notebook back, her fingers lingering over his name engraved on the cover, before turning toward the window. The city lights reflected in her eyes like tiny shards of memory. And just when Dominic thought she'd leave, she leaned closer, her voice trembling with emotion. "You destroyed my life once, Dominic Russo, but you don't remember me, do you?" Dominic's eyes snapped open. The next morning, sunlight spilled through the penthouse like an unwanted truth. Dominic sat at the edge of his desk, a cup of untouched espresso cooling beside him. He hadn't slept. Samantha's words from the night before echoed in his head. "You destroyed my life once." He'd destroyed many lives. That was the cost of being Dominic Russo, the man who rose from the gutter of Brooklyn to the marble towers of Manhattan's elite. But her voice, it carried a wound he couldn't place. Downstairs, Samantha dusted the portraits that lined the hallway, his childhood home in Queens, his late father's boxing gym, a few staged photos for reputation's sake. But one frame caught her attention. Inside was an old photograph, faded, almost hidden behind another. She froze. It was him, years younger, laughing in the sunlight with a little girl holding a red balloon. Her breath hitched. That photo shouldn't exist. Dominic, watching her from the security feed, noticed her reaction. His chest tightened. That picture wasn't meant to be there. He'd buried it long ago. He grabbed his coat and walked downstairs quietly. "Something wrong, Samantha?" His voice cut through the stillness. She turned, startled. "No, sir, just cleaning." He glanced at the frame, his tone calm, but his eyes sharp. "That photo, where did you find it?" It was behind the others." Dominic stared at her, searching her face for a clue. "Do you know the girl?" Her lips parted, but no sound came. She forced a shaky smile. "No, sir." Lies. He could hear them in her breathing. Dominic took the photo in his hand. His younger self smiled up at him. Before blood, before power, before loss, before the night everything changed. He looked back at her. "Strange thing about photos," he said quietly. "They always survive what memories can't." Samantha lowered her eyes, her heart pounding. That photo wasn't supposed to resurface. It was proof of something she'd spent years hiding, a connection she could never explain without destroying herself. Dominic turned away, but his mind burned with questions. Who was she? Why that picture? And what was she really doing in his house? Behind him, Samantha whispered under her breath, tears threatening to fall. "I wish you never found that photo, Dominic." Before we continue, answer this in the comments. Would you ever trust someone who once betrayed you, even if they swore they've changed? Think. The city outside pulsed with midnight light, Manhattan's heartbeat restless and alive. Inside the penthouse, silence ruled again. Dominic Russo stood by the window, glass of bourbon in hand, watching raindrops trace patterns down the glass. The photo from earlier still sat on his desk, haunting him like a ghost refusing to fade. He had to know the truth. So tonight, he planned his test. He moved quietly through the living room, rearranging small things she often touched: the drawer, the vase, the safe code panel beneath the study table beneath the couch. Then he sat on the couch, loosened his tie, and leaned back, pretending once more to be asleep. The penthouse clock ticked softly. Tick, tick, tick. Minutes passed. Then footsteps. Samantha. She entered hesitantly, her movements cautious but not fearful this time. The dim light from the window painted her in silver and shadow. Dominic's heartbeat slowed as he listened, every sound magnified, every breath deliberate. She walked straight toward the study, straight toward the drawer. Dominic's jaw tightened, so it wasn't an accident before. But something was different tonight. Her movements were slower, her eyes glassy. She wasn't searching like a thief. She was searching like someone looking for closure. She paused, fingers hovering over the black notebook again. Her lips trembled. "I never wanted to come back here," she whispered to herself. Dominic's pulse quickened. Back here? She opened the drawer, but didn't touch the notebook this time. Instead, she pulled out a folded photo, one that hadn't been there before. His breath nearly gave him away. She planted something. Her hand trembled as she looked at it. A young Dominic stood beside another man, a familiar face from long ago. Her eyes filled with tears. "You were right about him," she murmured. "He never should have gotten involved with your family." Dominic's fingers twitched. His mind raced. Her brother. She knelt beside the couch, unaware his eyes were slightly open now. Her voice broke, filled with guilt and memory. "I'm sorry for what my brother did to you." Dominic's world froze. Dominic Russo didn't move for a long time after she left the room. Her words replayed over and over. "I'm sorry for what my brother did to you." Her brother, that was the missing piece. He rose slowly, every muscle tense, and walked toward his desk. Under the faint glow of the city, he opened the drawer again. The black notebook lay there, untouched, but the photo she had pulled out was still on top. Dominic stared at it. The man beside his younger self wasn't just anyone. It was Elias Reyes, Samantha's brother, the man who had betrayed him years ago, leaking confidential files that almost brought down his entire operation. Dominic had lost millions, but worse than that, he had lost men, people loyal to him, executed because of Elias's deal with the FBI. And now, his sister was standing in his penthouse. He sank into his chair, fingers gripping the edges, torn between disbelief and fury. Was this fate or payback? He remembered the night Elias disappeared, the night Dominic swore never to forgive. His phone buzzed, a message from one of his men. "The new Maid checks out. Clean record, no red flags." Dominic's jaw flexed. Clean, huh? He knew better. Some ghosts knew how to wear new names. He looked up just as Samantha entered, carrying a tray of coffee. Their eyes met. For the first time, she didn't look away. There was something raw, something broken in her gaze. Dominic studied her silently. She didn't flinch under his stare. Her voice was soft, almost pleading. "You're not drinking enough water again, Mr. Russo." He almost laughed. Mr. Russo. Formal, polite, a perfect disguise. "Tell me, Samantha," he said finally, his tone calm but edged with danger. "Do you believe people deserve second chances?" Her eyes glistened. Only if they still have a soul left to save. The words hit him harder than a bullet. For a moment, he saw not a maid, not the sister of his enemy, but a woman carrying guilt heavier than his own rage. Dominic looked away, unsure if the tremble in his chest was anger or something far worse. For 3 days, Dominic watched her. Samantha Reyes moved through his penthouse like light slipping through cracks, quiet, calm, untouchable. Most people around Dominic walked on eggshells, afraid of his name, his silence, his reputation. But she didn't. She hummed sometimes while cleaning, soft and low. She even laughed once when she nearly dropped a glass vase, and for some strange reason, Dominic found himself suppressing a smile. He didn't understand it. He should have sent her away by now. She was the sister of the man who'd betrayed him, a walking reminder of everything he lost. Yet every time he thought about firing her, something in her steadiness stopped him. One afternoon, he entered the kitchen quietly. Samantha stood by the counter, arranging fresh flowers into a vase. Her hair fell loosely over her shoulders, and she didn't turn when she said, "You know it's not polite to watch people in the silence, Mr. Rousseau."